has to do with the subject that she's speaking about at the time, we will write our questions down in the chat box, and then I will ask that question for you. But for the most part, if everybody could just type their questions into the chat box, and then there will be time at the end of Ashley's presentation to do so. So, and now I'll give Melissa a little bit of a chance. Oh, at the end of the presentation, I will be sending out a survey. We would so appreciate anybody who will take the time to respond to it. It gives us a lot of information so that we might be able to offer you some pretty good things in the future as well. So I'll send out that email, and if there's any extra comments or questions you would like to ask, you could always include that in the email as well. I'm going to give you over to Melissa for a second so she can give you a little introduction about herself.
Hi, everybody. Melissa Kremmel. I'm the Northwest Region Coordinator. And I just wanted to mention, I know Crystal had mentioned that she's going to be asking the questions and that you should type them into the chat box. But for anybody who's new to Zoom, if you just scroll your cursor down to the bottom of your screen, you'll have a little menu that comes up. If you click on chat, that will give you the option of typing in to the whole group, or you can choose a person in the group. You'll have a panel that comes up on the right-hand side of your screen that tells you everybody that's in the group. So if you just click on that, it'll allow you to write in a chat for a question. And I think that is everything. So Ashley's next, and she is good to go. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us tonight.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I am a potty training specialist. I am the owner of Successful Potty Training. I've been potty training children of all abilities and all ages since 2001. So it's been just over 19 years that I've been doing potty training. And I'm quite possibly the only person who will say I really enjoy potty training. It's my calling. It's something that I was meant to do, and I truly love it. So a little bit of background. I received my clinical training in ABA at the Emory Autism Center. I was there for 6 years, and I was part of their treatment program. So all the children that came through our program were potty trained. My husband and I moved to Connecticut in 2008. A year later, I started Successful Potty Training. I realized there were no services whatsoever for potty training near us, and I wanted to stay in the field. So that's when my business was born. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years, almost 10 years. And I do, let's see, I'm getting some feedback here. I do in-home training, so I can come to your home and actually train your child for you. I also offer consultations, which are individualized. A lot of the information that I'll discuss tonight would be the same that I would discuss during a consultation. But I also travel throughout the country and into other countries as well. I've gone in this country, I've gone as far as California. I go there quite frequently. And I've also trained children in the UK as well. So okay. Now can you hear me? Okay. I'm not sure. Okay. When did I get muted? Can you tell me what the last thing that you heard, Crystal?
That you were across the country and you came back into Connecticut, and I think that was pretty much where you were.
Okay. So did I get to did you hear the in-home training part?
No.
Yeah, you did. You guys did. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving forward. And if you have any questions on my background, I'm happy to answer those as well. I do have 3 children of my own, and I am working with all 3 of them doing remote learning at this time. So it's kind of crazy around here, but I am available for consultations and training at this time as well. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is the use of positive reinforcement. And that's really the key to getting your child potty trained. You want to motivate your child to use the potty, whether it's going pee in the potty, going poop in the potty, or self-initiating to the potty. All of these behaviors can be taught by effectively reinforcing them through positive reinforcement. And that's like I said, the key to successful potty training. You've got to have a reason for your child to want to learn to do this new behavior. So anything that increases the possibility that one will do the behavior again is considered a reinforcer. Reinforcers change behavior, and it's the key to getting your child potty trained. When you're thinking about reinforcers, it's important to figure out what specifically your child is motivated by, not necessarily what you want to give them or what you think they might like. You need to determine what it is that they would climb a mountain to get. That's my key phrase. What would your child climb a mountain to get? Whatever that is, that's what you want to use for potty training. So it's important to understand what it is that they have to do to get their reward or reinforcer. So you want to set it up, verbally explain to them, when you pee in the potty, you can have your iPad, or you can get an item from your treasure box, or you can have your favorite soda, or you can watch a video. It can be anything and everything. Nothing is off limits. If they're highly motivated by food or treats or candy, then you want to use those. If they're highly motivated by activities such as jumping on a trampoline or going on a swing or riding on a ride-along toy, that can work as well. So as long as they're motivated, you want to consider using it for potty training. So it's important that you are very clear as what they need to do to get their reward. And then you need to make sure that you can give them access to the reward as soon as possible, or immediately. So as soon as they pee or poop in the potty. And that's really important, because you don't want them, if you make them wait, for instance, you don't want them to get confused as to what they physically need to do next time to get the reward. So an example is, if your child pees in the potty and their reward is an iPad, then as soon as the pee physically goes into the potty, they get the reward. Meaning that you don't have to finish the whole bathroom process before they get the reward. You can even give it to them while they're still sitting on the potty. So give them their reward as soon as the pee comes out, or as soon as the poop comes out into the potty, and then you can finish the bathroom routine after they're given their reward. Because really the behavior that you're focusing on is actual peeing or pooping in the potty. Everything else can be worked on at other times, like pulling up and down pants, washing hands, drying hands, turning off the light, wiping. That all can be worked on separately. But if you're teaching them to pee in the potty, you make sure that you reinforce that specific behavior immediately. In order to do that, you want to make sure that the reinforcer is right there, ready and waiting for your child next to the potty. So that's why using a reinforcer like going to the toy store, or going to the park, or even going to a different part of the house isn't going to be as effective as something that they can get right then and there. So let's say your child only likes to jump on a trampoline, and that's going to be their reward. Then you've got to figure out how to bring that trampoline either in or near the bathroom. And with that, you can get a little those little kid exercise trampolines. I mean, that would be something that you could actually put in the bathroom or right outside the bathroom. If they want to ride on a toy, that can be right outside the bathroom within view. Just make sure that it's right there, ready and waiting for them, and that they don't have to do anything else to get it. That's going to ensure that they are being reinforced for the correct behavior, and that they'll be learning what they need to do next time to get that reward. It's also important to make sure that you verbally praise them as to why they're getting it. Be very specific. Wow, look at that. That's awesome. You went pee in the potty. So be very specific as to why you're giving them their reward. You went pee in the potty, so here's your iPad, or here's your candy. And it's also important to have more than one reward. I suggest having between 5 and 10 different items. That's important because you don't want the lack of variety to be an excuse not to be successful. So if you're ready for them to go, if it's time for them to go sit on the potty, they need to go, and you can tell them, oh, remember, you can have a Skittle when you go pee in the potty. And they say, nah, I don't want the Skittle. No Skittle. Then you can't let that be the end of it. You have to have something else. Okay, if you don't want a Skittle, well, then you can have a lollipop, or you can have your iPad, or you can have your Play-Doh. Whatever it may be, you've got to have backups so that it's not an excuse to not do what they've been asked to do or told to do. And don't be afraid to think outside the box when you are choosing reinforcers. It may be something that you don't necessarily encourage on a regular basis. It could be a self-stimulatory behavior. If it's, if your child really likes to, say, flap a piece of toilet paper, and that's something that you worked hard on them to stop doing, but that it's something they would climb a mountain to do, then you want to consider using that for potty training. One of my favorite examples that I've used in the past is the squirt frosting. One of the little girls that I potty trained loved frosting. That was an easy way to get it into her mouth. So every time she peed in the potty, I squirted the frosting into her mouth, and she loved it. Another little boy actually bowel trained using decaf coffee, of all things. He loved the taste of coffee, and so that was his reward. Some kids, another little boy that I worked with loved watching the Wiggles while jumping on his parents' bed. So that was another thing. So nothing is off limits. If your child would climb a mountain to get it, then you want to consider using it as a reward for potty training. Keep in mind, if you do use it for potty training, you can't use it for anything else. So it's important that everyone's on the same page when you do begin potty training, that everyone knows that your child can only have the iPad when they have a success in the potty, and that he doesn't get it at any other time. That said, if it's not possible to take that item away, either for your sanity or for the ability to get them to school or to the doctor's office, then you can't use it for potty training. Or you can kind of finagle it, though. If let's say you need the iPad to get your child to his therapy appointment, that's the only way he'll go, then you could still consider using it for potty training as long as the child goes pee before he leaves for therapy. So you can still make it work. Just know that make sure that he understands that he's not getting it for going to therapy. He's getting it for going pee or poop in the potty. Okay, it looks like I have a chat. Okay, just checking on the chat. Okay, are there any specific questions regarding the effective use of positive reinforcement? And I think she didn't mention, I do have a handout that they will be forwarding to everyone who is here tonight, so that you'll have it all. You don't have to try to write everything down. You'll have it all in writing after the workshop is over. Okay, so let's move on to what actual potty training looks like. Okay, I have a question here. How much does your child need to understand a reward system? So it's important that your child, they don't have to know how to use, or they don't have to understand cause effect, but it's helpful if they understand, if you do this, then you get that. If they don't understand that by you verbally telling them, then the best way for them to learn that is by showing them. When they pee in the potty, when the pee physically goes into the potty, then that's why you give the reward immediately, so that they can understand why they're getting that reward. They can pair the behavior with the reward. That's why you give it to them immediately. So if they don't quite understand the cause effect yet, they can learn through this process.
We have a question, and Amy is wondering, do you award for just sitting on the toilet, or are you immediately only waiting for using urine or a BM?
That's a great question. It depends on where your child is starting out. If your child runs and screams from the room when you say the word potty and won't go near the potty, then yes, you can start by giving him a reward just for sitting on the potty. But if your child already sits on the potty without a problem, then you would want to up the ante. So give the reward for peeing or pooping in the potty. Do you want to ask any more of those questions, or you're just...
Okay, so we have Kate who's saying that her child will allow a small amount out just to receive the reward, get the reward, but then go ahead and go in his pants anyways.
Okay, is that for going pee or is that for going poop?
It's going for a bowel movement. So they're allowing a little bit of bowel movement to come out because they've learned they will get reinforcement for it, but yet I guess withholding enough that they will still end up having an accident.
Okay, so for that child, okay, you have to determine, is your child actually physically making the poop go in the potty, or have they started to go in their pants and then they sat on the potty and it just sort of fell out? So you have to determine what they're doing first. If they're actually actively making themselves go poop in the potty, then it's okay to give the reward, but then I would have him stay on the potty longer until he gets more poop out. And you can tell him you have to get more poop out. So you could give him a little bit of the reward for the little bit of poop, have him stay on the potty, and then give him more of the reward after he goes after he gets the rest of it out.
We have another. Lorena is asking, does the potty have to actually be in the bathroom?
Not at all. The potty can be wherever your child is most comfortable. Obviously, if he's using the little training potty. And it's fine to have that training potty in the bedroom, your child's bedroom, in the kitchen, in the living room, the playroom. It can be anywhere and everywhere. That's the beauty of those little training potties. So you can eventually transition him back into the bathroom, but he certainly doesn't have to start out in there, especially if there seems to be a fear of being in the bathroom or a dislike of being in the bathroom.
Okay, we have Katrina who's also asking if pottying is happening in multiple different places, preschool and home and other environments. How would you use the reward schedule? What would be the best way to focus on that?
Okay, so you want to make sure that everyone is using the same rewards for going potty or for using the potty, so that he doesn't get confused as to which behavior he can do where. So if he's let's see, is he actually using the potty, or you're asking about training? Okay, you're asking about training. So if you're training at school and at home and at grandma's house and at therapy, you want to be doing the same thing everywhere, meaning that you're using the same rewards everywhere you go. Now, you're going to have between 5 and 10 different rewards, so you can bring the ones with you that are easier to travel with when you're going to grandma's house or when you're going to therapy or to school, and then maybe keep the bigger rewards still as an option at home, but not an option when you're out. But just make sure that you have some of the consistent rewards in all the different areas. And if the school is reluctant to take in your own rewards, surely they have things at school or at therapy that they know that your child really likes to do or to have or to play with. And if that's the case, then ask the therapist or the teacher to save those items just for potty training, because you'll be working on it in those scenarios as well. So either don't give it to them at all, or only save for them if they have a success while they're at therapy or at school.
Okay, we have Elsie who's asking that her daughter is refusing the potty and lets her know that she doesn't like the feeling of the potty. So I'm assuming it's about sensitizing her to the potty, and as far as reinforcers not being helpful.
Okay. Yeah, so you want to, well, first of all, figure out what the actual issue is. Is it that the potty seat is too cold? Does she not like it that there's water in the toilet? Figure out what the issue is and, remove it or fix it. They've got heated potty seats if you need that, or they have the little cushy potty seats if she doesn't like how hard it is. You can't let her find an excuse to not use the potty, because whatever excuse that she's going to come up with, you've got to have a way to fix it, a resolution to it. So, and then once you figure out what the issue is, you can start getting her used to the potty by just having her slowly, in slow increments, having her sit on the potty. And you can even let her start sitting on the potty with her clothes on, if that helps her to get a little bit more comfortable. And then once she's comfortable sitting on the potty with her clothes on, then maybe take her pants off, but leave her undies on. And then take her undies on and have her sit naked, but have her only sit for 5 seconds. And then slowly build up the time. And I mean like from 5 seconds to 10 seconds to 20 seconds, and just slowly build up that time. But every time she hits one of those goals, give her a reward. So if she sits on the potty fully clothed, give her a reward. Then she's got to move on to the next step to get the reward the next time. So you can slowly get her desensitized to that, to sitting on the potty, once you figure out what the actual issue is. Okay.
Thanks, Ashley. I think you got most of the ones that were pertinent to the reinforcers.
Okay, great. So we're going to move on to what actual potty training looks like. Now, it's really important that you are ready to do the training as much as your child is, or maybe you're even more ready to do the training, because once you start, it's really important that you stick with it. If you start and stop and start and stop, it just makes it that much harder to start the next time. So you need to make sure that you're ready to start, you're ready to commit, and you're ready to follow through getting it done. So prior to really starting the toilet training, you can get your child ready for using the potty by having him sit on the potty with every diaper change. So if your child is still in diapers, then you can have, every time you go to change his diaper, you can offer him the opportunity to sit on the potty if he's not used to it. And then if he does sit on the potty, you can give him a reward. And then you can have a couple of different collections of rewards. You can have a smaller reward for sitting on the potty, and then have a bigger reward if he happens to pee in the potty. So you want to be prepared to reward that. And then once your child is sitting on the potty, you can't expect him to just sit there for no reason. It's really helpful to have a bin of toys, books, games, activities, stuff that he likes to do sitting next to the potty. And those can be the special potty toys that only him or her can use while sitting on the potty. That'll make them a little bit more special, but that will also allow them to sit a little bit longer. The goal is to have your child sit for up to 10 minutes. In the beginning, it can take that long for a child to go pee, for them to relax, feel comfortable, and let the pee come out. It also, the longer your child sits there, the higher the chances are that they will actually go pee. Because in the beginning, a lot of times they just happen to be at the right place at the right time, and that's why they have a success. They're not necessarily making themselves go pee. They just happen to go pee while they're sitting. So you want to go ahead and reinforce that by being prepared to giving a reward if he does happen to go pee in the potty. Okay, so that's really just if you're not ready to commit to the actual training, those are ways that you can get your child ready for the training and kind of know what to expect. Okay, so when you're ready to start training, it's really important that, like I said, you're ready to have your child wear underwear full time. And to most parents, this is scary, having your child go from diapers, cold turkey, to underwear. But this is important because if you're switching back and forth between underwear and diapers, your child may forget which one he can pee in and which one he can't. You may forget which one he's wearing. So it can just be frustrating and confusing for everyone. So it's ideal to have your child wear underwear full time. If you're concerned about an accident during nap time, during car trips, or overnight, you can put a pull-up or a diaper over the underwear. And this is important because during the day when you're working on training, you're going to focus on your child keeping her pants dry. So oftentimes, once your child learns to keep her pants dry at night or during the day, it'll carry over to the nighttime. And it's also helpful for the child to wear underwear because when they start to pee in it a little bit or even a lot, they're going to feel it. So they may stop themselves from going because they can feel it. Unlike the diaper or the pull-up, which is designed to soak up the liquid so that they don't feel the wetness against the skin, the underwear allows them to feel the wetness against the skin. That way, whether they're uncomfortable with it or not, it will signal to them, oh, I'm wet, I've got to do something about it. And that's something that we'll talk about in just a minute. So in order to teach your child to keep her underwear dry, we're going to use even more rewards. So you're going to use a smaller, separate reward for keeping her pants dry. So when she's out of the bathroom, she's going to be wearing underwear. Every 15 to 30 minutes, you want to ask her, do you have dry underwear? And have her feel the front of her pants. She may need hand-over-hand assistance in the beginning to feel the front of her pants. You're going to know if they're wet or dry because you can usually tell by looking at it. But this is just to reinforce to her what it feels like when it's wet and when it's dry. If her pants are dry, you want to give her a smaller, separate reward that's not the same reward as going pee in the potty. And this is just to reinforce that dry pants are a good thing. So it's easiest to use something that's small and goes away quickly. So an edible, a little piece of candy, a little piece of chip, a raisin, a popcorn. If your child is motivated by food, you can use one of those. They have dry pants. You can just pop it in their mouth and praise them. Great job keeping your pants dry. Here's a Skittle or here's an M&M. If your child is not motivated by food, you can try bubbles. You can blow bubbles for them. You can, tickle them if they like that, or give them squeezes or hugs. Stickers, something, like I said, that's quick and easy and goes away. Ideally, you just don't want to use something that you have to take away. And then if you go to do a dry pants check and your child is wet, then you don't make a big deal out of it. You just tell them your pants are wet, that's yucky. And you need to give them very matter-of-fact instructions as to what they need to do next. You need to take off your pants. You need to put your pants in the laundry. You need to put dry pants back on. And it's important that they have a natural consequence for having an accident. It's not a punishment. It's just you've got to stop playing and stop what you're doing and take care of it. Mom or dad or the babysitter or grandma or whoever is not going to swoop in and change them any longer. They've got to take responsibility for the accident. This will naturally deter them from doing it in the future. In the beginning, a lot of times kids will just have full-on accidents, flood their underwear, and have no reaction whatsoever, that's okay. You know, if you have a child who's been wearing diapers for 4 or 5 or 10 years, this is a whole new feeling for them. They're going to have to learn that the pee is no longer taken care of if they're wearing underwear. They have to stop and do something about it. But through time, this was something that they'll learn, especially if you're reinforcing them when they have dry pants, so that they're getting the positive reinforcement for dry pants and natural consequence for when their pants are wet. Okay, you want to, in order to give your child as many opportunities to use the potty as possible, you want to give them access to liquids. So give them as much liquids as they'll take in. It can be, you know, if they don't like to drink a lot, then you can give them a food with a high water content like fruits or yogurts, popsicles, ice cream, whatever it is, just to get liquid in them. The more liquid that they take in, the more opportunities they're going to have to learn the new behavior. Ideally, you want to take your child 1 to 2 times per hour. It just depends on how much they're drinking and how frequently they typically pee. Some kids will hold it for 2 or 3 hours normally, you know, during the day. If that's the case, then you would probably want to take that child every hour. If you take them too frequently, they may get frustrated because they're like, hey, why am I doing this again if I don't have to pee? Why are you making me go do this again? So you can take them a little less frequently. The children whose diapers you're changing a lot, you know, have a lot of wet diapers, you would take them more frequently, every half an hour. Keep in mind when you take them, you're going to take them every half an hour, have them sit for 10 minutes. So they're really only off the potty for 20 minutes. Then they have to go back on for 10. So that's why you want to kind of figure out how much liquid they're taking in and how long they can hold their urine. Oftentimes, though, when you do start potty training, because kids have been wearing diapers, they're not used to holding their urine, so they may be going every 15 minutes, you know, if they're taking in a lot of liquid, because they haven't learned to hold it. But when training begins, they'll learn to hold it for longer, and then they won't have to go as frequently. Okay, so when it's time to take your child to the potty, it's helpful to give them a transition warning. Let them know in 2 minutes, we're going to go sit on the potty. Or as soon as this show is over, we're going to go sit on the potty. Or whatever it may be, it's helpful to give them a transition warning just to make it a little bit easier on both of you, really. And then if it is time to go sit on the potty and your child just, you know, is upset and doesn't want to do it, is screaming, saying, I don't want to go, you still have to have them go sit on the potty. You have to teach them that throwing a tantrum or getting upset and not wanting to go isn't a way to get out of sitting on the potty. Just like with anything else, if you ask them to do it, it's important to follow through with it so that they don't learn that throwing a tantrum is going to get them out of going to the potty. Easier said than done, I know for sure. Okay, when it is time to go sit in the potty, encourage independence. So you want to make sure that your potty is easy for them to get onto. And if your child is smaller, 2 or 3, even 4, it's okay if they use a little training potty. It's if it's, you know, if they're on the smaller side and it's the child is, you know, shorter or smaller and it's easier for them to get onto that than the regular toilet, that's totally fine. If your child is too big for the training potty, then it's helpful to have a potty seat for your potty for the toilet to make the hole smaller. My favorites are the family potty seat or the 2-in-1 potty seat, which is the 2-in-1 is the one that you can replace your actual toilet seat with, and it has a smaller separate ring that folds down into the regular toilet seat. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, okay. Those are awesome because anyone in the family can use them. They're always there. You don't have to take it on and put it off. So those are the most convenient and they're super easy to replace the current toilet seat with. If that's not a possibility, there's another one called WeePod, WEEPOD. That's a nice, soft, cushy one that sits nicely on top of the toilet. As cute as the Disney and the Dora ones are, those don't usually fit very well on the toilet. Those can scoot around and kind of fall in halfway, and the kids can be, it can scare the child if they're sitting on it and it moves or starts to fall in. So those aren't quite as sturdy as the WeePod or the 2-in-1 toilet seat, which are the best. If you have an older child, say 10 or older, the last child that I worked with had, I think it was actually made for adults. It was a toilet seat that was like, it was the spongy material that's suctioned down on top of the toilet seat. I think they got it from a medical supply company. I actually need to do a little bit of research on it because it's the first time that I had seen it. Anyway, the point is you can find seats to sit on the regular toilet for the bigger kids if necessary. But ideally, the family potty seat is the way to go. Also, it's important to have steps or a step in front of the toilet so that your child can step up onto that and get themselves onto the toilet. It's also helpful sometimes if your child is a little bit unstable to get there's this whole contraption. It's the potty seat with a railing and steps that lead up to it. It's all connected and it's great. So that's great for kids that are a little bit less stable on their feet or need some support when walking or standing. So, but ideally you want your child to be able to get onto the potty as independently as possible. Now, if your child can't walk or is in a wheelchair or scoots around everywhere, they can still be potty trained. It's okay if they can't get up there on their own. They're just going to need a little bit of extra help, and that's totally okay. It doesn't mean that they can't be potty trained by any means. And also too, if you do have if your child is sitting on the potty and their feet don't touch the floor, having a step for them to put their feet on can help them feel more comfortable and stable. And that also helps with bowel movements too, because they'll be more comfortable if they're sitting there for a while trying to go. Like I said, make sure you've got your toys there ready and waiting for them so that while they're sitting, they can have something to do. You can even move in a little TV tray type table or stool or some surface for them to play on while they're sitting there. And it's also helpful too, if your child is in the middle of playing with something they really like and it's time to go sit on the potty, it's totally okay for them to bring whatever it is that they're doing with them to the bathroom while they sit on the potty. There's absolutely no reason why they have to leave it, unless it's like their train table or something huge that you can't physically take with you. Let them take a couple of trains. It's okay for them to bring whatever it is that they're currently into with them to the potty. That'll just make the transition a little bit easier. Any questions on that section?
Well, we had a few questions on prerequisites. So do you think that there's anything that a child or an individual needs to be able to understand or show or behaviorally comply in any way before you can get into potty training?
Well, it's always easier if your child is compliant when coming to potty training. But if not, it's important that they know why they're doing the potty training. That they know that they're not doing it because they have to, or they're not doing it to make mom happy, or because their peers are doing it, because that's not usually enough. That's why we have the rewards. They're doing it for the rewards. So that can really take the pressure off of everyone. If they know that, especially the child, if they know that they're not doing it for mom, but they're doing it to get their iPad, then that's going to make your child a whole lot more compliant. As far as being verbal or nonverbal, your child does not have to be verbal to be trained. I've trained many children who are completely nonverbal, and we figure out ways for them to communicate. Once they are using the potty and you start teaching them to self-initiate, we figure out ways to get them to self-initiate non-verbally by using pictures. They can bring their reward box to you. They can, one little boy went and knocked on the bathroom door every time he had to go pee. So there are ways that we can teach nonverbal kids to communicate. And that reminds me, I'm going to back up just a little bit. When you have all your rewards, this is one of the most important things. I can't believe I forgot it. When you have your rewards, you want to put all of those rewards in a clear box with a lid that locks down. That way you've got everything together and you can bring it with you wherever the potty may be, or when it's time to go to the potty. It's important that it locks down or isn't easy to open, because you do want to leave that reward box out as a visual reminder for what your child gets when they use the potty. So some kids will learn to bring that box to you as a way to tell you that they need to go potty. And if you have a Houdini on your hands, they do have clear boxes that you can actually put a physical lock on, like a padlock on, if you have to. I see some parents agreeing with that. That's totally fine too. You know, if you can't find one that actually locks, you want to make it difficult for them to open. So if you see that they start to get their box open, you can get there before they get it open. Really, it's just to kind of slow them down if necessary. Did I answer all that parts of that question?
I believe so. You have a couple more on reinforcements.
Okay.
Some were asking, do you need to use different reinforcements for pants versus BMs? So like, or also if they're dry versus pee. So for example, if you're trying to keep them from having accidents, would you give them a reward for dry pants? And then would you give something different for going in the actual potty?
Yes. You want to give them a less preferred reward for keeping their pants dry. Something that they like, but not as much as their pee in the potty rewards, because that's really the ultimate goal. So that's why you want to use a smaller reward for dry pants, and then use the big rewards that they would do anything for the pee in the potty. And then for poop in the potty, you can have a whole separate box of rewards, or you can give them 2 of the rewards out of the regular treasure box, reward box for the pee. Sometimes if you've got separate rewards for the pee and for the poop, they may pee but then want the poop reward, or vice versa. So really, I think ideally you can give them double the amount if they poop in the potty, because that's likely only going to be once a day, or you can let them have their reward for longer. And that's another thing that I didn't discuss, is how long does the child get the reward? If it's an iPad or if it's a toy, you want to set the limits for how long the child gets the reward. He's not going to get it for the rest of the day. If that's the case, he's not going to pee in the potty for the rest of the day. So I typically recommend giving the reward for about 10 minutes, between 5 and 15 minutes, but roughly 10 minutes. But it's important for you to figure out, how long will your child play with that thing before he puts it down? So you want to make sure that your child gets the reward long enough that he feels rewarded but not satiated. So if your child would play with that item for 15 minutes, then you certainly want to take it away by 10 minutes of having it, or after 10 minutes of having it. That way he's going to feel rewarded, but you're going to leave him wanting more. He's not going to be satiated. He's not going to refuse it next time because he's gotten too much of it already. And if it's a reward like an iPad, once that time is up, you can put it back into the box and he can get it next time. Now, one other thing that I didn't mention is, if your child wants something that's big, or it has many parts, let's say your daughter really wants a dollhouse and all the furniture and dolls that go with it. If that's the case, she can earn each piece. You're not going to give her the whole dollhouse the first time she pees in the potty. You can give her each piece to the dollhouse, or, you know, any other toy like that that has multiple parts. They can slowly earn the pieces of that. Or if, you know, say they want a new bicycle or something like that, it would be the same as the iPad. You figure out how much time they would play on it without a limit, and then cut that time in half and take it away at you know, after about that amount of time.
The last one that I see that pertains here is that we have a mom asking, what if they have a schedule that doesn't permit the time scheduling? For example, they have appointments that are 30 minutes to 120 minutes away. How do you follow through?
Okay, so that, do you mean they're okay, oh, I see it, okay. Okay, so I kind of, it really depends on how frequently the appointments are. You know, if it's a once a week thing, then you're just going to have to work around it. If it's every day, you might have to wait until the appointments are less frequently so that you have more time to dedicate to the potty training. But when, let's say your child, okay, so if your child has an appointment that's 30 minutes away or 2 hours away, okay, so I would suggest having your child sit on the potty right before you leave, and then when you arrive at your destination. But if that's a 2-hour car drive, then I would suggest stopping halfway in between and taking them then. So, I mean, you can still do it. It doesn't mean that you can't train. You're gonna have to alter when you're gonna take him and kind of schedule it around when you're leaving different appointments. And, you know, if a lot of times therapy will work with you, and you can actually take them to the potty during therapy as well, and they can continue the therapy if they're sitting on the potty if necessary. Okay, any other questions on, so the first section I just talked about is really focused on urine training. Oftentimes, well, that's not true, not oftentimes. Sometimes, if you're lucky, bowel training will come with urine training. Other times, your child may be completely urine trained and flat out refuse to poop in the potty. Unfortunately, all 3 of my children who are typically developing were all urine trained, and they all refused to poop in the potty after they were urine trained. So this is an incredibly common phenomenon. It's hard to understand, but kids just, for whatever reason, decide that they are not going to poop in the potty. And I can't tell you how many times a week I hear parents saying, my child will not poop in the potty. So you're not alone if you have a child who will not poop in the potty. So if the poop training does not come with the urine training, you can do a separate bowel training. It's pretty straightforward. Really the first thing to determine is when your child typically has a bowel movement. Before they're trained, when they're still wearing diapers, the kids are often pooping 3 or 4 times a day. And that's because they don't have a need to hold it. Once they're urine trained, that usually goes down to 1, maybe twice a day they'll go poop. But that's, like I said, that changes once the training starts. So if your child is urine trained but not yet bowel trained, you want to figure out when he typically has a bowel movement. And this is important because you want to be able to get him settled on the potty before the urge to poop comes. And I'm sure you've seen it, for those of you who have been working on it already. If you see your child over in the corner and he starts pooping in his pants, and you pick him up and rush him to the potty, there's a 90% chance he's not going to finish because you've interrupted him. And so he's held it and it's not coming back out for a while. So it's best to get him settled on the potty before he feels the urge to go. And this is easier said than done, but with bowel training, if you can get your child to poop on the potty 2 or 3 times, followed by a fabulous reinforcer, then that's usually it. They'll typically be going consistently in the potty after that. It's just getting over that initial fear or refusal to go. What this means is once you determine when your child is going to poop, you get him on the potty. He's got to stay on the potty until he poops. That could be 15 minutes, that could be 45 minutes, that could be 6 hours, that could be a long time. And I know it sounds impossible, but keep in mind, if you have your child sit on the potty for an hour trying to go poop, and then you decide, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm not going to have him sit, he's not going to sit anymore. 5 minutes after he gets off the potty, he's going to go on the floor, he's going to go in his pants. So you've missed that opportunity because he's probably not going to poop again until the next day. So as hard as it may be, you really just want to stick it out and have him stay on the potty until he goes. So you're going to have anything and everything you need in the bathroom ready and waiting for him. You're going to have toys for him to play with and things for him to do. And if he likes to paint and play in the sandbox, bring those things into the bathroom, he can do those. If he's one of these kids who's gonna try to wait as long as possible and you're in the bathroom for hours, he doesn't have to physically be on the toilet that whole time. It's okay if he's right next to the toilet. You just want to make sure that he can easily get back onto the toilet if the urge comes. And then it's also important to make sure that you've got his reinforcers right there ready and waiting for him. But like I said, although it can be grueling and it may take a few hours the first couple of times getting him to go, 2 or 3 times having a success followed by a reward, and he should be going consistently after that. It can be really tough in the beginning. On the other hand, some children actually bowel train before they urine train. So hopefully you're one of the lucky ones. Or if you're even luckier, they'll be totally fine with pooping and peeing in the potty all at once. So you just have to be prepared, and you're not going to know what they're going to do for poop until you start. Start with the whole training in general. Now there are some tricks that I've learned throughout the years when it comes to bowel training specifically. It could also work for urine training if your child refuses to pee in the potty as well. So oftentimes kids are used to the feeling of their pull-up or their diaper when they pee or poop in it. And removing that comfort of the pull-up or the diaper can be huge for them and can be traumatizing. And it's a total different feeling from peeing in the diaper versus peeing in the potty. So some parents have had some success by allowing their child to wear a diaper or a pull-up and then cutting a hole in the bottom of it so that they can actually still wear it. But while they're wearing it and sitting on the potty, they can still technically have a success, even though they're wearing their diaper, if they need that for comfort. So that's something that you can consider if you feel like you need to. Another thing with pooping in the potty, and oftentimes in these groups, there are parents who have kids who have chronic constipation or chronic diarrhea. And if you have one of those children, I strongly recommend that you look into what the cause of those may be before you try to train. Because if your child has a medical condition which is causing the constipation or the diarrhea, then it's going to be really difficult to potty train them because they likely aren't in control of their bowels if they're if there's something, if there's a medical reason for them, which is causing the constipation or the diarrhea. So if you have one of those kids, I strongly, if you haven't already, recommend ruling out any food allergies, food sensitivities, food intolerances, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, or celiac disease. Those are all things that can cause constipation and or diarrhea. And if your child is experiencing that on a regular basis, or you've already seen a doctor about it and they've prescribed Miralax, but haven't actually looked into the root cause, I would look into it further. Because like I said, if they are dealing with those things, they're not in full control of their bowels, and it's going to be very difficult to train them until they are fully in control of their bowels. So that's just something to consider. And if you have any more specific questions regarding that, I'd be happy to talk with you one-on-one. I've had lots of experience with children with both constipation and diarrhea issues that I can talk with you more about if necessary. Okay, do we have questions?
For the nighttime issue, I have a question about whether it would be more appropriate to keep the underwear on at night or to keep a pull-on on.
Okay, we're going to move on to nighttime training in just a minute. Are there any other bowel training questions before we move on to that?
Not seeing particularly about bowel training.
Okay. All right, great. Okay.
I do see about seeing dry through, but I don't see about bowel training.
Okay. Well, if something arises, let me know. We can always go back. But let's move on to nighttime training. Okay. I do recommend that once you start daytime training, that you do nighttime training as well. Like I said earlier, once your child starts to wear underwear and they're learning during the day to keep them dry, oftentimes that carries over into the night unconsciously. I mean, they automatically do it. For many kids will automatically do it. On the other hand, many children may already be nighttime trained, but because they're wearing a diaper or a pull-up, when they wake up, they just pee in it because they have no reason to not use it. So that's why I do recommend having your child wear underwear at night with a pull-up or a diaper over it. Let's see, I thought I saw a question about, here we go. If nighttime is the only issue, should we do undies under the pull-up? Yes. So underwear under the pull-up or the diaper. Like I said, it's important for your child to feel when they're wet. And some children may be asleep. They may start to pee a little bit. They feel it in their underwear. They're going to get up and do something about it, because otherwise they're going to soak themselves, and that's going to be even more uncomfortable. So what you can do to help your child with nighttime training is to limit the drinks in the evening, meaning that the last drink should be given with dinner. So if your child is still taking a full bottle when you put him or her to bed, you cannot expect them to be nighttime trained. To take in that much liquid and stay dry all night is just not realistic. So you would want to wean them off that first before you expect nighttime training. So the last drink should be given with dinner. If necessary, when they're brushing their teeth or when they go to bed, if they need a little sip of water, that's fine. Just don't give them an entire 8-ounce cup. Also, have your child use the potty right before they go to bed and empty their bladder. Some parents have found success in waking their child halfway through the night and taking them to the potty. If your child will go right back to sleep or even stay asleep when you take them halfway through the night, then that's totally fine. If your child is a bad sleeper and they're going to be awake for the next 2 hours, then I would not recommend doing that at all. But I have heard that some parents remarkably get their child up, sit them on the potty, they pee, they go right back to bed. It's incredible. I would never attempt it with my kids, but it is possible. And I just spoke to a woman the other day who wakes her child up at 3 a.m. every night, takes her to the potty, and because of that, she wakes up dry. Keep in mind though, by the time your child is 3, he should physically be able to hold it all night long, especially if you're helping him by limiting the drinks at night. Now, there are some exceptions. If your child is a bedwetter, or there's a family history of bedwetting, then it could take a little bit longer. But it can be genetic. So if you yourself or your husband or grandparents were bedwetters, it's quite possible that their bladder just hasn't caught up with their body, and they may need to mature a little bit. Their bladder may need to grow a little bit before they're physically capable of doing it. But most kids should be able to do it by the time that they're 3. Some kids may be fully capable of holding their urine all night long, but refuse to get out of bed because they're scared of the monsters under the bed, or they're scared of the dark. So if that's an issue, you can remedy that. You can give them a flashlight or a special lantern for them to get to the bathroom. If they don't want to leave their room and they're not using the little potty anymore, you can still leave the little potty in their room as an option if they need to go pee. My daughter I think she was 4, using the regular toilet during the day, but at night she was not going to get up out of her bed or leave her room. So we put the little training potty next to her bed so she could use it if needed. So again, you don't want their excuses to keep them from being successful. Figure out how you can remedy those problems. There's usually a solution. And then make sure that you set up a reward system for waking up for dry underwear. So tell them if they wake up with dry underwear, they can have ice cream for breakfast, or they can get a prize in their prize box, or they can watch their favorite cartoon when they wake up. Give them a reason to wake up dry. Like I said, they probably can. It's quite possible they already are. They just don't have to because they're wearing pull-ups or diapers.
We have a couple of questions that have more to do with medical, also sensory. So not being able to have that sensory feeling that they need to go. And we have a couple of parents who perhaps have something like, are dealing with seizures and incontinence that have to do with that. And they don't feel the wetness, I guess, that they experience in their clothes. So we have a few questions that way.
Okay, so it's totally normal, well, not totally normal, but it's quite frequent that children will pee in their underwear and then go about their day and, pretend it didn't happen. And, if you have one of those children, you can still teach them that when their pants are wet, whether they like the feeling or not, they still have to stop playing and take them off and put on dry pants. So they don't have to be bothered by it for it to be if they're not bothered by it, doesn't mean it's not a deterrent. You can teach them that wet pants are not good and dry pants are good by reinforcing the dry and making the wet pants have a natural consequence. Whether they're bothered by it or not really doesn't play into that. You're just teaching them, if you have wet pants, you have to do something about it. Does that answer the questions that you saw?
Yes, I also think that there's some medical conditions. So Hope is asking about hemiplegia impacts continence. What about absent seizures? What specialist would be the best one to ask about this?
Okay, so repeat the first question again.
Hemiplegia impacts continence. What about absent seizures? What specialist would be the best one to ask about this.
Okay, I think those sound like very specific questions, and I would probably have them contact me specifically. Yeah, if it's a really specific question that maybe isn't relevant to the entire group, if you could contact me, I'd be happy to answer your email. Okay, any other questions on nighttime training?
We have a mom that's asking if he can't, let's see, sleep issues. So what if a child isn't bothered by the sensation? Also, do you have suggestions for children with sleep issues?
Yeah, so, you know, that's a tough one. The kids with sleep issues, I feel like sleep issues are more important for getting resolved than nighttime training, because sleep is so much more important. And if your child, and that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. If your child will be awakened by having wet underwear and then won't go back to sleep for the rest of the night, then he would be one that you can allow to wear pull-ups or a diaper at night. And I think only kids with severe sleep issues, I would recommend wearing the pull-up or the diaper at night so that you don't disrupt their sleep. And that's important, because I am all for getting children to sleep. So you don't want to mess with that if you don't have to. The main reason I recommend underwear full time and not putting a pull-up on at night is that some kids will learn, if they don't like to use the potty, they will learn to hold their pee all day long until they get the pull-up at night and then finally pee in the pull-up. So that's really the main reason that I don't recommend the pull-up at night. If you have one of those children who doesn't like to use the potty and just will hold it all day, because then you're into a whole different set of problems. So if your child does have severe sleep issues, then you can hold off on the nighttime training. It's not going to put them backwards for the daytime training, and it's not going to mean that they're never nighttime trained. You can just put that on the nighttime training on hold for now.
We have one more mom who's asking, does the reward systems continue through the night?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need to give your child a 15-minute iPad reward in the middle of the night. That's why I recommend that you reward them for waking up with dry underwear rather than rewarding for peeing in the potty. I mean, unless it can be quick and easy and they go right back to sleep, then you can think of something like popping a piece of popcorn or something, goldfish, I don't know, in their mouth. Blowing bubbles maybe would be a better one, or singing their favorite song. But ideally, they'll be to the point where they'll be okay with just going right back to sleep, that they'll be so tired they'll just want to go right back to sleep. If your child uses the potty right before bedtime, then you can go ahead and give them the reward. I'm talking specifically about 3 a.m. You don't have to you can do a modified reward for the middle of the night. There's a question about a child who isn't waking up when he's soaked every night. So my wondering there is, have you tried underwear with your child? The one who doesn't wake up and he's soaked every night and he doesn't like the alarm. He will wear underwear at night. Okay. He doesn't like the alarm. This may be another child who is considered a bedwetter and just doesn't have the bladder capacity to hold it all night long. He would be another one that I would consider a special case, and you could have him wear a nighttime pull-up at night. It just, I don't generally recommend it, but the special cases, if you're dealing with sleep, then you can go with the pull-up. But all other, try if you can the underwear with the pull-up over it at night. Any other questions?
He still won't, a mom is asking that he still won't wake up even if he has undies on. How can she get him to be aware of it?
Well, as the parent before that I was just talking about, she tried the nighttime alarm in his underwear, and when it gets damp, an alarm goes off and wakes your child to get up. And that is certainly something that you can try. It works for some, it doesn't work for others, but it's worth a shot. He may be one of those kids that you would get up in the middle of the night. So, you know, if let's say you put him to bed at 8, you go to bed at 10, I would take him again at 10 and try to have him pee. If you guys go to bed at the same time, no shame. I do it all the time. Go to the same time, go to bed at the same time as my kid, and I am proud of it. So if you are one of those parents, then maybe set your alarm for midnight and try to get him up and try to pee. Because those are the parents that have had success, the ones whose children just will not wake up for anything to go pee if they have to. Those are the parents who have also had success getting their children up, sitting them on the potty, they pee, they go right back to sleep and have absolutely no memory of it either. So I would try waking either the alarm or waking you being the alarm and waking him up and trying to get him to go pee. But make sure that his liquid intake is way down, you know, none at night. Make sure he's peeing enough during the day, and you're giving him enough opportunities to have success during the day, because that can also happen too if kids aren't thrilled about using the potty and they tend to hold it during the day, then that can cause more nighttime accidents. Any other questions for nighttime?
I think we're pretty caught up for that.
Okay, so the next step is teaching self-initiations. So some of you may have a child who pees and poops in the potty but will not tell you when he needs to go. Or you may get to the point where your child is using the potty but will not tell you when he needs to go. So you want to, when you get to this point of teaching self-initiations, your child will likely be using the potty consistently and having very infrequent accidents. And that'll be the time when you know that you can start working on self-initiations. So continue to make sure your child is wearing dry underwear, and only take your child at natural times that you would take yourself. So take your child when he gets up in the morning, before you leave the house, before nap, before bedtime, you know, at times that you would normally go yourself. That's when you would take your child. All other times should be self-initiated. And you can do this by reminding your child to keep his pants dry. So by this point, you'll still be doing the dry pants checks, where you're asking him, do you have dry pants? Having him feel the front of his pants, reinforcing with a small separate reward, and then doing that 1 or 2 times per hour. You can do the dry pants checks. At the same time, you want to remind him what he needs to do if he has to go pee. And this is important because you don't want to be asking your child, do you need to pee? Do you need to pee? Do you need to pee? Do you need to go to the potty? It just drives him crazy by asking him all the time if he needs to go pee. One, because you're setting yourself up for him to say no. If you're asking him a yes, no question, he'll just automatically say no. So instead of asking him if he needs to go pee, you need to remind him what it is he needs to do when he needs to go pee. So tell him, say pee pee if you need to go pee in the potty, or walk to the potty if you need to go pee, or touch the picture if you need to go pee. You know, however it is that's easiest for him to communicate, that's what you want him to, you want to encourage him to do. So there are 3 key phrases that you want to remember. Do you have dry pants? Second one is say pee pee or sit on the potty if you need to go pee. The third one is when you pee in the potty, you can have your reward, whatever that may be. So you're going to just be a broken record of repeating these 3 things. You're not going to be asking him if he needs to go pee. You're going to be reminding him what he needs to do or say when he needs to pee, and then what he gets when he does have a success. And then it's also important to make sure that you've got all your rewards in that clear box, or if it's an iPad, you can have it on lock, so the lock screen so he can't get on. So have those out within view at all times as a visual reminder. So he may be playing in the room, in the playroom. He looks up, he sees his box. He's like, oh, I think I want a Skittle. So I'm going to go pee in the potty so I can get my Skittle. I mean, that's ideally where you want to be. So if you leave that out for him to see that, then when he's playing and he's busy and he's about to just pee in his pants because he doesn't want to bother with going to the potty, when he's reminded of what he gets as a reward for using the potty, then that's going to encourage him to be successful. Okay, any questions for that?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, so that's mainly everything regarding all of the parts of potty training in general. I did mention in the beginning that I also do in-home potty training, so I just want to briefly go over that to give you an overview as to what that looks like. I do intensive potty training, and it typically takes 5 days or less. It's every day of all-day training. And because of that, and because potty training is the focus, that's why it can be done so quickly. My average with special needs kids is about 4 days, but that's not to say that it may take longer, or it may take fewer days. It really depends on your child and how quickly he learns and how motivated he is by his rewards. So that said, if you are interested in intensive potty training, you can contact me and we can discuss that more in depth. But it's cut into 3 phases. So just like with regular potty training, we set up the bathroom so that we've got anything and everything he needs while he's sitting on the potty. And we are pretty much on and off the potty throughout the entire day. So although it may sound like torture to you, the kids really enjoy it because they're getting one-on-one attention. They're getting all their favorite toys and activities that they like to play with. And all they have to do is be happy. The goal is to keep them happy and content while they're learning this new behavior. So like I said, we can typically do it within 5 days. So if it's something that you would like to talk more about, the information that's going to be sent to you is going to have my phone number and my email address. So you can feel free to reach out at any point to get more information on that. Also, if you have a specific question, you can reach out to me at any time too. It looks like.
Yep, we have another question.
Okay.
We have somebody asking about how do you treat major regression? So the child was fully trained before. Do you go back a phase? And what if he has been out of the treatment phase for months or even years? Medical causes have been ruled out.
Okay, well, you have to figure out what caused the regression. Was it, a change in the family? Was there a new baby? Was there a divorce? Did you move? Did you change schools? Figure out what the reason that the regression happened And oftentimes it's triggered by a disruption in the routine. If that's the case, and you've done away, or maybe you never were using rewards, then you want to reinstate using rewards. And that's one thing that I should point out is once your child is using the potty consistently and having very infrequent accidents and has learned to self-initiate, then you can slowly fade out the rewards. So that instead of getting the reward every single time he has a success, he can get it every other time. And then it's every third time. So you don't want to cut them out cold turkey. And it's possible that's why this child regressed, is because rewards were taken away too quickly. So you want to make sure that you do it very slowly. If the regression starts to happen, then you want to reinstate the rewards. Or if in this case that they never used the rewards, then I would go back to working on training with him again and instilling rewards for him to use this time to truly change the behavior. That's typically what's happened, is that the child may know what to do and sometimes do it, but isn't necessarily trained. Like he hasn't learned and changed to the new behavior. Or it's possible that the parent was trained to take them, at certain times. But if your child regresses, or if your child is no longer doing what they were doing in the past, then I would go back to regular trip training like we discussed at the beginning, and using rewards with every success.
Thank you. We have, I'm asking about what you would do if the child is very concerned about making a mess. How do you know when to get them from a potty chair to the bathroom?
Very concerned when they make a mess. Okay, meaning that they don't. I guess
potty chairs. Yeah, I'm thinking that it might be that the potty chair is a little bit different than the bathroom, meaning it kind of sits there. And
so meaning that
those are two questions. Okay, so they're two separate questions. What do you do first if they're concerned about making a mess using the potty? And then the second question is, how do you get them to go from a potty chair to the bathroom?
Okay. So I guess I'm confused about what you mean by making a mess. So maybe clarify that. And then going from the potty chair to the bathroom, it's going to be similar to when I was talking about the child who didn't like to sit on the regular toilet because they didn't like how it felt. It's going to be the same sort of thing, as you want to slowly introduce the new potty to them, or the regular toilet to them. So you kind of got to feel out where your starting point is. If they won't go near it, then you want to just have them spend some time in the bathroom near the toilet. And then maybe the next step would be to touch the toilet, and then put two hands on it. And then they could maybe sit on it with their clothes on, and then open the lid and have them sit on it with their clothes on. Then sit on it with just their underwear, then sit on it with just their pants. So break it down into steps, little tiny steps, and have them complete each step. And with each step that they complete, they get a reward. And just slowly increase the time that they're sitting on that potty. If your child is okay, if they're not scared of it, and they're okay with it, then just move everything into the bathroom. Move all the toys, move the rewards, make sure you've got a seat that they're comfortable on with a step, and just tell them, look, we don't have the little potty anymore. Now let's try the big potty. This is where you're going to sit. So it really depends on how he's feeling about the potty at that point. and then you'll know where your starting point is.
She's mentioning that the concern is that he's worried he will have a BM accident and he sees us clean it up. So I'm thinking that's what the mess part of it was.
Okay. Well, I think the answer there is just tell him you're not going to make a mess if you poop in the potty. You got to poop in the potty, and then there's not going to be a mess.
We have one more. How long does it take to get the self-initiation going for a child with developmental delays? And how do you navigate supporting a child who can go when asked by a parent, but is not self-initiating and having accidents if he is not asked? Does that mean the parent needs to continue to do time trips to toilet for longer before transitioning to the child asking on his own?
Okay, so most likely the child is dependent upon the parent to take him to the potty. He has no reason to self-initiate because he can just rely upon mom or dad to take him on his schedule. So I would completely do away with the timed schedule. Don't take that child on a regular schedule. Like I said, take him at natural times, like upon wake up and before bedtime and before car trips, but all other times should be self-initiated. You're gonna have, if you're not using rewards yet, you're gonna have to introduce rewards. So you can tell him you can have a reward, piece of candy, iPad, whatever it may be, when you tell me that you have to go pee, and then when you do go pee in the potty. So he has to do both of those things in order to get the reward, meaning that he doesn't get the reward just for being taken. He has to self-initiate and then go. Tell him where it is. It's by your other medicine. You have a question? Question from the live audience down here. Okay.
Do you find a difference between teaching toilet training to boys versus girls?
I always get this question, and no, there's no difference. It's all about personality. It really has nothing to do with gender. It's all about personality. And that reminds me, oftentimes dads will ask, should we teach the boy to pee standing up? And I say, no, do not teach your boy to pee standing up for two reasons. One, he's gonna have to learn to sit on the potty to poop anyway. So you might as well go ahead and teach him to sit. It's also not realistic for him to stand in front of a potty for 10 minutes, whereas he can sit more easily. Two, you're gonna save yourself a whole lot of cleanup if you can get him to sit on the potty rather than stand.
You mentioned you have in-home training. Your in-home training has 3 phases. You shared phase 1 was setting up the bathroom to make sure everything is there. What are the other 2 phases?
Okay, so I actually stopped with that because I wasn't sure if you guys are ready to be done or not. So if you want to hear what the intensive training looks like, give me a thumbs up. If not, then we can skip over that. Anyone? Thumbs up? Okay. So yeah, you're right. There are 3 phases to the intensive training. The first phase is, so it's broken down into how much time your child is sitting on the toilet. That's what each phase is. So the first phase is 10 minutes on the potty, 5 minutes off the potty. When he's on the potty, he can play. You're encouraging him to pee. You're prepared to reward success. When he's off the potty, he's wearing pants, and you're rewarding him for keeping his dry pants. And then he's back on for 10 minutes. So the first phase, he's on the potty for 10 minutes. He's off the potty for 5 minutes. We're in the bathroom or very near the potty if it's in another room outside the bathroom this entire time. If he is desperate to leave the bathroom or really wants to go run around, then that can be used as a reinforcer. Go pee in the potty and you can go run around the house. So the only reason that we're in the bathroom or very near the potty is so that there aren't any obstacles for getting to the potty. It's easy for him to get there if he's right near the potty or in the bathroom. The second phase, so when I'm doing the intensive training, I'm keeping data so I know when he's ready to move to the second phase. The second phase is spending less time on the potty, more time off. So he's 5 minutes on the potty, 10 minutes off. This is when we start teaching self-initiations. So in order for him to move on to the third and final phase, he has to have had successes that were self-initiated. So the first phase, he's really learning what it means to pee in the potty. By the second phase, he's learned how to go pee in the potty. Now he has to recognize the need to go and then communicate that need. The third potty is when we start moving out of the bathroom and further away from the toilet. So he has to make more of an effort to get to the potty. And it will be starting with 5 minutes off, 2 or 3 minutes on, because by then he will have learned to just sit and pee. And then we work up to 20 minutes off, and then 30 minutes off. And then by then we naturally progress out of the intensive phase and into what a normal routine would look like, getting back to normal life and learning to self-initiate from different parts of the house. And so that's considered the intensive training, and that's typically about a 5-day process. So the goals of the intensive training are to teach your child to wear underwear full time, sit on the potty, pee in the potty, poop in the potty, self-initiate to the potty. Any other questions?
I actually have one for you.
Sure.
Ashley, what about children that have, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, the sensory need to get involved with their own bowel movements and, you know, and may possibly playing with it? Or does that interfere with training, and what
Not
kinds
at
of things
all.
would you do? Okay.
Oftentimes, once the child is potty trained, that behavior goes away. That usually happens because they're going in their diaper. They want to get it out of their diaper, and they realize that one is either it's fun to play with, or two, they want to get it off their hands. So they're trying to wipe it on the walls and the windows and the carpet to get it off their hands. That's usually, but like I said, it usually is diminished once they're trained.
Wonderful. Would you like to spend your last 30 minutes or so opening it up for people to raise their hands and ask questions directly?
Sounds good.
Okay. So if somebody wants to do that, please go ahead and raise your hand and unmute yourself if you can. Trying to see if I see hands.
Oh, there's one. Okay. Can you do that, or do I do that?
If you can do it, that's wonderful, because I'm not seeing it.
It's Terry, and I don't know. I don't think I can unmute her, though. Can you unmute Terry Gossley?
Melly's going to do it, I think.
Okay.
I unmuted myself.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm actually wondering about earlier potty training. My 16-month-old has Down syndrome, so I know there's going to be a delay potty training, but just to get him used to it, I don't know. You know, I definitely know when he has to go. He's very consistent, you know, that when he wakes up in the morning, and it'll be very apparent that he has to go. So I just didn't know if there's such a thing as too early, like for just kind of getting him used to the feeling of it.
Sure. No, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, because the ideal age is to train between 2 and 3. I think it's really difficult to try to train before they turn 2, just because they're irrational toddlers, and you can't reason with toddlers usually. So if you wait until they're 2, they're just a little bit easier to deal with. That said, once they're past 3, that doesn't mean they can't be trained or they're not going to be easy. It just, ideally, you want to do it between 2 and 3. But for him, since he's so young, you want to go ahead and get him a little potty that sits on the floor, one of the little training potties. Have him sit, you know, when you know he needs to go, say in the morning when he wakes up, and then before he goes to bed, go ahead and have him sit on the potty. And as long as he's content to sit there, let him sit for up to 10 minutes. And then if he does happen to be successful, be prepared to give him a reward. He can start learning that. And, you know, if he's motivated enough and understands the process, he quite possibly could be trained before too. So I definitely don't discourage it. But you want to give him the opportunity to sit on the potty, be prepared to reward him if he does have a success. And the more opportunities he has to sit, the more opportunities he'll have to be successful and then to ultimately learn what he needs to do. So yeah, it's not too early to introduce the potty. That's for sure.
I see Stephanie has one, so I think Stephanie can go ahead. Do we unmute you? Yep, Stephanie Valaka.
Hi, I just have a question going back into the sensory part of like when they begin to play, I guess, with, you know, the wet diaper or anything. How, I know you said like it diminishes when they actually are potty trained, but what can you do in the meantime if it's taking longer than 5 days to get them potty trained to not play with, you know, the pee or the poop or anything?
So, okay, you want to, when you know that they're wet or poopy, change them as soon as possible so that they don't have the opportunity to get in there. But you can also teach them a replacement behavior. So if they like how the poop feels, then find something that's similar that is appropriate for them to play with. Play-Doh or slime. There's so many different sensory toys now that if you see that they start to reach into their diaper, then give them an appropriate replacement item for them to play with.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, not seeing anybody.
Oh, Lorena?
Oh. Lorena.
She's raising her hand physically in the screen.
Where are you, Lorena? You see her, Melly?
You there?
There you
go. Okay.
There you are.
Sorry. So somebody asked before, when is it appropriate to transition a boy who's potty trained to stand and pee?
Well, my advice is keep them sitting as long as possible. There's absolutely no reason why they have to stand to pee. But if you want them to, or if they want to, oftentimes they'll learn it by watching dad or another male figure or by watching their peers, and they'll just start doing that on their own. But I wouldn't necessarily encourage it because, you know, it's not really something that they have to do. There's nothing wrong with them staying on the potty to sit on the potty to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Have anybody else? Oh, Tanya Bermuda. Tanya, there you go. Unmute.
Am I unmuted?
Okay. You are.
Okay, excellent. Hi, it's Tanya Bermudez. Excuse me. So I have a 4-year-old who he has developmental delay, self-regulating. He has social emotional delay. He does pee on the potty. He hardly has accidents with peeing. He does wear a pull-up overnight, so sometimes it is wet. But pooping is what he does not do at all in the potty. He did do it a little bit, maybe when he was 3 years old in the beginning. I also have a 13-month-old. So he did regress a little when the 13-month-old came, but he was fine. He will lie to us saying that he does not have poop in his underwear. He has wiped it. I found it in the closet. If it's hardened, things of that nature. Also, he is on Miralax every night because he does go sometimes with constipation that he's staining his underwear and it is kind of hard. You could tell it's dry. I'm always trying to encourage water. His fruits and veggies, so his fibers mostly come from pouches like Happy Tot, Plum, etc. So he doesn't really have it like food-wise like that. So that's where I'm at.
Have you talked to a doctor about possible causes for the constipation?
Okay, hold on, Papa. I'm sorry. We're trying to. Sorry. Yes, we do see a developmental pediatrician. He also gets occupational therapy. Okay, baby. Okay, we're gonna go night-night. Hold on.
Tanya, if it would be easier, you want to send me an email and I can talk to you over that, or we can schedule a call.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I just didn't want to go without sending the message, like putting out a question.
Sure.
My husband and I were both doing this, but
I'm gonna type in my email. Let's see if I can do this here.
thank you. I might have it from your Zoom invite.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if oh no, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna type in my email. So if you have, so you can email me with that question and I'll talk you through it since your little guy's tired.
Yeah. So we can definitely use as much assistance because he's 4 and our 13-month-old is also another boy.
Yeah.
And whatever will help us, like if we made mistakes with him, don't want to make them with the other.
Sure. Right. Okay. So I just typed my email into the chat. If you so send me an email and we'll discuss it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And anyone else, if you, like I said, have specific questions about your child, you can send me an email using that address.
Okay. Anybody else, or are we all set? Okay.
I don't see anybody else raising their hand.
Okay, so we want to thank everybody for coming, and just a reminder that we're going to be sending out the survey, so I'd appreciate it if you can respond. And Ashley gave you her number, but I'm also willing to have you put any questions you might have in our email, and we can always forward them on as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a wonderful night. Bye.